The warning lights flashed red across the Galactic Council Station's main control room. Engineer First Class Blue Mist's 4 arms moved quickly over the control panels, their silver skin reflecting the emergency lights as they tried to stabilize the failing antimatter containment field. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not here. Not on the most advanced space station in the known galaxy. Status report. Station Director Gold demanded, his crystalline form shimmering with stress patterns. The containment field is failing, Director. We've lost 3 layers of protection already, Blue Mist reported, their voice wavering. The automated systems aren't responding to our corrections. The massive control room, usually a model of quiet efficiency, had erupted into barely controlled chaos. Dozens of aliens from 15 different species worked at their stations, each trying to prevent what was starting to look like an inevitable disaster. The station's antimatter power core supplied energy to half the sector's vital communications and defense systems. If it failed, billions would be affected. Time until critical failure. Director Gold asked, his crystalline voice sharp with worry. 12 hours at current degradation rates, the station's eye responded, its holographic form flickering above the central console. However, I must point out that the rate of decay is accelerating. We may have less time. A quiet murmur of despair spread through the control room. Everyone knew what an antimatter containment failure meant. Total destruction of the station, and everything within 1 billion kilometers. Options, the director asked. We've attempted all standard protocols, Blue Mist said, their silver skin now dulled with exhaustion. The technical division has tried 17 different emergency procedures. Nothing is working. The station's AI spoke up again, its voice carrying an unusual hesitation. Director, I have analyzed all possible solutions within our database. There is one option we haven't considered, though it's unconventional. Director Gold turned his crystalline form toward the AI's projection. At this point, unwilling to consider anything. We could request emergency assistance from Earth. The control room fell silent. Even the warning alarms seemed quieter for a moment. A human. Chief Safety Officer Green whispered, his plant-like appendages curling in alarm. You want to bring a Deathworlder onto this station. The humans have extensive experience with crude but effective containment systems, the AI continued. Their planet's harsh conditions have forced them to develop unique approaches to emergency situations. Additionally, their Earth Emergency Response Division has handled similar incidents. Director Gold's crystal structure flickered with internal light as he considered the suggestion. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as dangerous but capable creatures. Their homeworld, Earth, was classified as a death world, a planet so hazardous that most galactic species couldn't survive there for more than a few hours. This had made humans incredibly resilient and adaptable, but also earned them a reputation for being unpredictable and risky. The last time we had a human on board, they broke 3 safety protocols in one day. Green protested, and saved 6 lives by doing so. The AI countered. Current calculations show our standard procedures have a 2% chance of success. Adding human intervention raises those odds to 48%. Another alarm joined the chorus of warnings. Blue Mist checked their readings and their silver skin paled further. Director, the decay rate just increased. We now have less than 8 hours. Director Gold's crystalline form pulsed with decision patterns. As the station's leader, the lives of everyone aboard were his responsibility. His pride wasn't worth their deaths. Contact Earth Emergency Response Division, he ordered. Tell them we have a Class 1 antimatter containment failure and request immediate assistance. He paused before adding, and may the cosmic forces forgive us for what we're about to unleash on this station. The AI began the transmission, its circuits preparing to communicate with the only species in the galaxy crazy enough to run toward an antimatter containment failure instead of away from it. As the call went out, Director Gold could only hope that human unpredictability would prove to be an asset rather than the final disaster in an already desperate situation. Somewhere on Earth, an emergency response specialist's communicator was about to ring. and the galaxy would be reminded why sometimes the most dangerous solution was exactly what was needed. Tom Reed was having a quiet breakfast in his apartment when his emergency communicator buzzed. The sound made him spill coffee on his toast, but he didn't mind. That particular buzz meant something interesting was about to happen. He picked up the device and raised an eyebrow at the message flashing on its screen. Class 1, Antimatter Emergency. Galactic Council Station. Well, he muttered, already heading to his gear closet. The mighty council needs human help after all. Within 5 minutes, Tom had changed into his reinforced work suit and was packing his emergency kit. While most specialists in the galaxy relied on advanced AI systems and remote robots, Tom believed in carrying actual tools. His heavy metal toolbox contained what aliens would consider primitive equipment: physical wrenches, manual gauges, and backup power cells. The emergency transport arrived at his door exactly 2 minutes later. As Tom stepped inside the sleek vessel, he remembered the first time humans had met the galactic community, 10 years ago. The aliens had been shocked to discover that humans lived on what they classified as a death world, a planet with such extreme conditions that it should have been impossible for intelligent life to develop there. Emergency departure clearance granted, the ship's AI announced. Warning: high G acceleration imminent. Tom grinned and strapped himself in. While most species needed special protection against fast acceleration, humans could handle it pretty well. Another gift from growing up on Earth. The ship shot into space, and Tom used the travel time to review the station's schematics on his tablet. The Galactic Council's antimatter containment system was impressive, in theory, but theory wasn't going to help when things went wrong. Based on current readings, the ship's AI reported, the station has approximately 7 hours until critical failure. Tom nodded, studying the power fluctuation patterns. Show me the last 3 hours of containment field data. Numbers and graphs floated in front of him. While alien engineers saw only chaos in the readings, Tom's eyes picked up something familiar. The pattern reminded him of an incident back on Earth, when a mining facility's reactor had nearly gone critical. That time, the problem hadn't been in the main systems at all. The transport ship dropped out of FTL near the station. Through the viewport, Tom could see the massive structure, all gleaming metal and perfect geometric shapes. At least that's how it usually looked. Right now, one section was noticeably darker than the rest. Incoming transmission from Station Director Gold, the ship's AI announced. A hologram appeared, showing the crystalline form of the station's director. Specialist Reed, we are relieved you've arrived. Though I must insist you follow our safety protocols. With respect, Director, Tom interrupted, checking his equipment. We can discuss protocols after I've had a look at your antimatter problem. Time's pretty short. The crystal alien's form flickered with what might have been annoyance. Our most advanced systems haven't been able to solve. That's exactly why you called me, Tom said, his voice firm but friendly. You don't need another advanced system. You need someone who knows what it feels like when things go wrong. As the transport dock opened, Tom grabbed his toolbox. The station's artificial gravity felt a bit light to him. Aliens preferred it that way. Another advantage of coming from a high-gravity world. Everything felt easier up here. A group of aliens waited at the airlock. Tom recognized several species: a silver-skinned engineer, a plant-based security officer, and various technical staff. They all kept their distance, watching him with a mixture of hope and fear. Right, Tom said, checking his handheld scanner. First thing we need to do is get closer to the containment chamber. And yes, he added, seeing their alarmed expressions, I mean physically closer. Sometimes you need to feel the problem to solve it. The aliens exchanged worried looks. To them, getting close to a failing antimatter container was suicide. But they had called a human for a reason. Sometimes, the only way to fix an impossible problem was to send in someone crazy enough to try. Tom started walking toward the affected section, his heavy boots making solid sounds on the station's perfect floor. Behind him, He heard one alien whisper to another, "Are all humans this direct?" "Nah," Tom called back over his shoulder with a smile. "Some of us are actually kind of reckless." The closer they got to the containment chamber, the more Tom's instincts told him something was wrong. The station's walls had a slight vibration, too subtle for the alien sensors to detect, but clear enough to human touch. He pressed his hand against the metal wall, feeling the rhythm. "Please don't touch the walls," Engineer Bluemist said nervously, all four arms clutching a datapad. "The metal is rated for 300 degrees and extreme pressure." "I know," Tom interrupted, still feeling the vibration. "But numbers don't tell the whole story. This vibration shouldn't be here." The group reached the final security checkpoint before the containment chamber. Chief Safety Officer Green stepped forward, his plant-like body swaying with anxiety. "You can't possibly mean to go inside. The radiation levels are high but not immediately lethal to a human," Tom finished, pulling equipment from his toolbox. "Your sensors say we have about 6 hours left, but these vibrations tell me we have less. Maybe 4. The announcement caused a stir among the alien staff. Director Gold's hologram appeared nearby, his crystal form showing stress patterns. 4 hours? Our best computers calculate. Computers calculate what they're programmed to calculate, Tom said, strapping on his radiation meter. But they don't feel things going wrong. Trust me, we've got 4 hours max. Tom pulled out what looked like an old-fashioned mechanical watch. The aliens stared at it in confusion. "What is that primitive device?" Bluemist asked. "Analog chronometer. Electronics can fail, but this'll keep ticking no matter what." Tom set the watch for 4 hours. "Now let me see your containment chamber schematics again." The aliens projected a holographic model of the chamber. Tom studied it while putting on his protective gear. The containment system was beautiful, too beautiful. That was part of the problem. "Here's your first issue," he said, pointing at the design. "Everything's perfect. Symmetrical. Nature doesn't work that way, and neither does antimatter. But perfect symmetry is essential for," Bluemist began. A deep rumble interrupted them, and the lights flickered. Tom's radiation meter clicked faster. "That's what I was afraid of," Tom muttered. "The containment field isn't failing. It's being pushed out of alignment." He turned to the aliens. "Open the chamber access. I need to get in there." "Absolutely not," Chief Green protested. "The safety protocols clearly state." Another rumble shook the station, stronger this time. Tom's watch showed they'd already lost 20 minutes to discussion. "Listen," Tom said firmly, "your safety protocols were written for a perfect system. But right now, your perfect system is about to blow up and take half the sector with it. You called a human because we do things differently. So either open that door, or I'll open it myself." The aliens looked at each other, then at Director Gold's hologram. After a moment that felt too long, the director's crystal form pulsed with resignation. "Open the chamber," he ordered, "and may whatever gods you believe in protect you, human." The massive doors slid open with a hiss. Even the aliens' environment suits couldn't handle the conditions inside, but Tom's Earth-designed gear could take it. For a while, at least. "Bluemist," Tom called as he checked his oxygen supply. "I need you monitoring the power readings. Green, keep an eye on the radiation levels. If they spike suddenly, don't bother warning me. Just start the evacuation." He stepped toward the chamber entrance, then paused and turned back. "Oh, and one more thing. If you lose contact with me, don't send anyone in after me. Not even another human. Clear?" The aliens nodded, their various forms showing signs of distress. Tom gave them a confident smile, even though they probably couldn't read human expressions well. "All right then," he said, stepping into the chamber. "Let's go Sager Station." The door closed behind him with a heavy thud. Through the observation window, the aliens watched the human walk steadily into one of the most dangerous environments in the galaxy, carrying nothing but his primitive tools and centuries of Deathworld survival instincts. Another rumble shook the station. Tom checked his watch. 3 hours and 35 minutes left. Time to show the galaxy why sometimes you needed someone crazy enough to run toward danger instead of away from it. Inside the containment chamber, reality itself seemed to bend. The antimatter core floated in its magnetic field, casting strange shadows that moved in ways shadows shouldn't. Tom's boots clanked against the metal grating as he moved carefully forward, every step measured and deliberate. Status report. Director Gold's voice crackled through Tom's earpiece. "Well," Tom said, scanning the chamber with both his instruments and his eyes, "it's actually worse than it looks. And it looks pretty bad." The containment field flickered, sending ripples of blue energy across the chamber. Tom's radiation meter clicked faster, but he kept moving forward. Growing up on Earth, where background radiation was just a fact of life, had given humans a higher tolerance than most species. "The field harmonics are all wrong," Bloomist reported from the control room. "But the computers say the frequencies are correct." Tom watched the energy ripples, remembering something from his training days. "You know what this reminds me of," he said, pulling an old-fashioned tuning fork from his toolkit. "It's like when you play two musical notes that are almost, but not quite, the same." "Music?" Chief Green's voice was heavy with disbelief. "This is hardly the time for—" Tom struck the tuning fork against his metal toolkit and held it up. Through his radiation suit's glove, he could feel the vibration. More importantly, he could see how the containment field reacted, rippling in a new pattern. "There's your problem," Tom said, excitement creeping into his voice. "Someone or something is generating a counter-frequency. The field isn't failing. It's being pushed out of tune." He heard the aliens discussing this in their technical terms, but Tom was already moving. Years of working dangerous jobs on Earth had taught him to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming that they'd better find the source fast. "The radiation levels are increasing," Green reported nervously. "Human, you should." "Call me Tom," he interrupted, following the ripple patterns with his eyes. "And I need you to be quiet for a minute. I'm trying to feel something out." The chamber hummed with energy. Tom closed his eyes, letting his other senses work. On Earth, predators had taught humans to notice tiny details: the slight rustle of leaves, the faint vibration of approaching footsteps. Right now, those ancient survival instincts were telling him. "There," he said, eyes snapping open. "Section C7, behind the coolant pipes. Something's there that shouldn't be." Tom moved quickly but carefully across the chamber. His watch showed 2 hours and 45 minutes remaining, but his gut told him they had less. The containment field flickered more violently now, sending waves of heat even through his protective suit. Behind the coolant pipes, partially hidden by shadows and energy distortions, sat a small device. It was about the size of Tom's fist, pulsing with a faint light that matched the containment field's frequency. "Director," Tom called, "I found something. Looks like sabotage. Someone planted a resonance generator in here. It's pushing your containment field out of alignment." The alien's response was immediate and predictable. "Impossible. Our security. The scanners would have." "With respect," Tom interrupted, examining the device carefully, "it's definitely possible, because I'm looking right at it. And we can discuss how it got here later. Right now, we need to shut it down." He reached for the device, but Bloomist's voice stopped him. "Wait, we need to analyze it first. The safety protocols require." Another violent surge from the containment field made the decision for them. The chamber groaned, metal supports straining against forces they were never meant to handle. "No time," Tom said. He could feel the heat increasing through his suit. "That surge just cut our time in half." Sometimes you have to trust human instincts over alien computers. Without waiting for a response, Tom reached for the device. The alien's protests faded into background noise as he focused on the task. The device was hot enough to feel through his protective gloves, but Tom didn't hesitate. After all, Humans had survived on Earth by learning when to be careful and when to act fast. Right now, speed mattered more than safety. "All right," he muttered, gripping the device firmly. "Let's see if Deathworld instincts are good for something after all." Tom's hands moved steadily despite the rising heat. The sabotage device was hot enough to start melting his gloves, but he kept working. Years of handling emergencies on Earth had taught him to ignore discomfort when time was running out. "Stop immediately." Director Gold's voice crackled through the comm. "Our computers show a 98% chance of explosion if the device is tampered with." "Good thing humans don't trust percentages that much," Tom replied, carefully turning the device over. "We prefer gut feelings, and my gut says this thing has a manual override." The containment chamber shuddered. Through the observation window, the alien staff watched in horror as Tom ignored every safety protocol they had. Chief Green's plant-like form was literally wilting from stress. "The safety protocols clearly state," Green began. "Your safety protocols," Tom interrupted, "were written by people who never had to fix things while being chased by Earth's predators." He found a small panel on the device's side. "Sometimes you have to work fast and messy." Blue Mist's silver skin had turned almost white with anxiety. "But the radiation levels are high enough to kill most species." "Yes," Tom said, prying open the panel with one of his primitive tools. "But humans evolved on a planet that was trying to kill us every day. We're tougher than we look." Inside the device, Tom found exactly what he'd expected and feared. A complex web of energy circuits, all feeding into a central core. The device wasn't just disrupting the containment field. It was building up to something bigger. "We've got about 20 minutes, Tom announced, checking his watch. "This thing isn't just pushing the field out of alignment. It's gathering energy for a big pulse." Director Gold's crystalline form flickered with alarm patterns. "Our evacuation protocols require at least 40 minutes. We need to start." "No time for evacuation," Tom said, pulling tools from his belt. "But I've got an idea. It's stupid and dangerous, and you're all going to hate it." The aliens fell silent. They'd called a human because they needed someone who could do the impossible. Now they were about to see exactly what that meant. "Blue Mist," Tom called, "I need you to divert all power from sections D through K to the containment field. And yes, I know that's against protocol. But those sections include life support and—" "Just do it." Tom's voice carried the sharp edge of command. "Green, start moving everyone to the emergency shelters." "Director, I need override access to the main power grid." The aliens hesitated for just a moment, then began moving. They'd seen enough to know that sometimes survival meant breaking the rules. Tom turned back to the device, sweat dripping inside his suit. The radiation meter was screaming warnings, but he ignored it. The heat was becoming unbearable. His suit's cooling system was failing. "Whatever you're planning," Director Gold said, "our simulations show." "Your simulations," Tom interrupted, connecting a power cable from his toolkit to the device, "don't account for human stubbornness. We're about to do something that's technically impossible." He worked quickly, bypassing safety systems and rerouting power connections. Each move violated at least 3 protocols, but protocols hadn't evolved on a death world. Humans had. The chamber's warning lights turned from red to purple, a color Tom hadn't even known existed in the warning system. The aliens' voices became more urgent in his comm, but he tuned them out. All his focus was on the task at hand. "Okay," he said finally, connecting the last wire. "I've rewired this thing to feed its energy pulse back into itself. When it goes off, the containment field will actually get stronger for about 3 seconds. And after those 3 seconds," Blue Mist asked nervously. Tom checked his watch. 10 minutes left. "After those 3 seconds, everything depends on whether humans really are as tough as we think we are, because I'll need to make some manual adjustments in that 3-second window." The aliens fell silent again. They'd asked for a human solution, and now they were getting one, complete with all the crazy, impossible risks that humans were famous for. Tom took a deep breath. Start the power diversion. Things are about to get interesting. The containment chamber blazed with energy as power from half the station poured into the field. Tom stood next to the sabotage device, tools ready, watching his modified countdown timer. 5 minutes left before everything either worked or went catastrophically wrong. Final radiation warning. Green's shaky voice came through the comm. Levels are now lethal to all known species. Good thing humans aren't a known species, Tom said, double-checking his connections. His protective suit was failing, systems shutting down one by one. He could feel the heat on his skin now, and the radiation made his teeth tingle, a sensation he'd learned to hate during Earth's reactor emergencies. All non-essential personnel are in shelters, Director Gold reported. Human. Tom, you can still. Not leaving, Tom interrupted. Besides, we're past the point of no return. He looked at his watch. 3 minutes. Blue Mist, I need full power to the containment field on my mark. Every bit you can give it. But the safety limiters. Override them. Trust me, they're the least of our problems right now. The chamber groaned as metal supports strained against forces they were never designed to handle. Tom's boots were actually melting, sticking to the floor grating. The sabotage device hummed louder, building toward its final pulse. 2 minutes. Blue Mist, start overriding those limiters now. Green, if this works, we're going to need emergency medical ready. If it doesn't work, well, emergency medical won't matter much. Tom could barely see through his helmet's visor anymore. The radiation was affecting the transparent material. But he didn't need to see clearly. Like his ancestors hunting in Earth's darkness, he could feel what needed to be done. 1 minute. Power limiters at 160% of maximum. Blue Mist reported, their voice tense. Temperature in the chamber is beyond our ability to measure. Tom nodded, though no one could probably see him clearly anymore through the energy distortions. When that device pulses, it'll strengthen the containment field for exactly 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, I need to manually adjust the field harmonics to match the pulse frequency. That's impossible, several voices said at once. Impossible is what humans do best, Tom replied, flexing his hands inside his half-melted gloves. 30 seconds. Everyone ready. The aliens fell silent. Tom could feel the device's vibration changing, building toward the pulse. His timing would have to be perfect, too early or too late, and the station would be atoms scattered across space. 10 seconds, he called. Blue Mist, on my mark. The device reached its peak. Tom's radiation meter gave up and died with a sad beep. 5, 4, 3. The device pulsed. Energy exploded outward, but instead of destroying the containment field, it merged with it, just as Tom had planned. Mark. Blue Mist dumped all power into the field. Tom's hands moved with inhuman speed, turning dials and adjusting controls that were never meant to be adjusted manually. The heat was unbearable now, but he kept working. 3 seconds wasn't much time, but humans had evolved to make split-second decisions while being chased by predators. 2 seconds left. His gloves were gone, his fingers burning as they touched the controls. But he kept going. The field harmonics were almost aligned. 1 second. With a final twist that sent pain shooting up his arms, Tom locked the controls in place. The containment field flared brilliantly, then settled into a steady, stable hum. The sabotage device, its energy spent, crumbled into ash. Tom checked his readings through cracked display screens. Containment field is stable. Radiation levels dropping. We did it. He tried to take a step and stumbled. His legs weren't working right. Probably radiation damage. The last thing he heard before passing out was Director Gold's voice, filled with something that sounded like awe. Get a medical team in there and update the emergency protocols. Sometimes, it seems, the most dangerous solution is the only one that works. Tom smiled as darkness took him. He'd beaten impossible odds, broken every safety protocol in the book, and probably set some new records for radiation exposure. All in all, just another day's work for a human from Earth. Tom woke up 3 days later in the station's medical bay. His first thought was that everything was too purple. Alien medical facilities never quite got human color preferences right. His second thought was surprise that he was alive at all. "The patient is conscious," announced a floating medical drone. Its scanning beams swept over Tom's body. Vital signs stable, radiation damage healing at unusual rates. "That's humans for you," Tom said, his voice rough. "We're good at healing too. Comes from living on a planet that keeps trying to kill you." The medical bay's door slid open. Director Gold floated in, his crystalline form now showing calm, ordered patterns. Behind him came Blue Mist and Green, both looking at Tom with what he hoped was respect rather than fear. "How's the station?" Tom asked, trying to sit up. "Fully operational," Director Gold said. "The containment field is more stable than it has ever been. Your unconventional solution actually improved its efficiency by 12%. Tom nodded, then immediately regretted the movement. Even with enhanced human healing, radiation poisoning wasn't fun. "And the sabotage device, any idea where it came from?" "We traced its origin," Blue Mist said, all 4 arms moving in excited gestures. "It was planted by a group that opposes cooperation between species. They thought destroying our station would prove that different species can't work together." Tom couldn't help laughing, which hurt his still healing chest. "Well, they certainly proved something. Just not what they intended." "Indeed," Director Gold agreed. "The Council has been in session discussing your actions. They've made some interesting decisions." "Let me guess," Tom said. "They're adding even more safety protocols." "Actually," Green spoke up, his plant-like form swaying gently, "they're creating a new emergency response protocol. They're calling it the Deathworlder Initiative." Tom raised his eyebrows. "That's not what I expected." "The Council realizes now that sometimes we need solutions that don't follow standard procedures," Director Gold explained. "Sometimes we need people who evolved facing constant danger, who can make impossible decisions in seconds. In other words," Blue Mist added, "sometimes we need humans." The medical drone interrupted with another scan. "Patient's radiation levels still elevated but within acceptable human parameters. Recovery time estimated at 3 more days." 3 days. Tom shook his head carefully. "I'll be out of here in 1. Humans heal faster when we're busy." "About that," Director Gold said, his crystal form flickering with what Tom had learned was amusement. "We've received 16 requests from other stations for human emergency specialists. It seems your success has created quite a demand." Tom smiled. "Better start recruiting more humans then. Though you should probably warn them, not all of us are as careful as I am." The aliens exchanged looks that clearly said they couldn't tell if he was joking. The idea of anyone being less careful than the human who had manually adjusted an antimatter containment field while being cooked by radiation was slightly terrifying. "We're also rebuilding the containment chamber," Blue Mist said. "We're incorporating some of your primitive tools into the design. Sometimes simple solutions work better than complex ones. The Council wants to know," Director Gold added, "if you would consider taking a permanent position here as our chief emergency specialist." Tom thought about it. The job would be dangerous, impossible, and constantly challenging. He'd have to break rules, ignore safety protocols, and probably risk his life regularly. "Sounds perfect," he said. "When do I start?" "After you heal," Green insisted, actually standing firm against Tom's questioning look. "Even Deathworlders need recovery time." "Fine," Tom agreed, settling back. "But keep my toolbox nearby, just in case." As the aliens left him to rest, Tom heard them discussing changes to station procedures. Words like human factor and Deathworlder solutions floated back to him. He smiled, thinking about how far things had come. 10 years ago, humans were seen as dangerous primitives from a deadly world. Now they were being recognized for what they really were. Survivors who had turned their harsh origins into strength. The medical drone made another scan. Rest recommended. Sure, Tom said, already planning modifications to the station's emergency systems. But keep the coffee coming. This Deathworlder's got work to do.